All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. How are all y'all doing? Welcome. I forgot to actually post the show on YouTube or on StreamYard, so I apologize for that. The YouTube people didn't have much of a run up to get into the show, but here we are. Anyways, no, actually, Anne Heche died in a car accident, obsolete optics, and we're going to talk about that a little bit and the weirdness of it. Let's jump into it. We're live on Callin, Rockfin, and on YouTube. And have a lot to cover today, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to go a full hour today. Probably going to shoot for about 40 or 45 minutes. So I'm going to keep it quick. I don't know if I'm going to take any calls today until maybe later in the show, because I enjoy taking the calls, but they do tend to push everything back. So if I do take calls, it will be late in the show. But we are here now. You can listen in on the show on Callin, on the Callin app. Anyways, let's get into it. Mega drought from USA Today. Mega drought may be the main weather concern across the West right now, amid the constant threat of wildfires and earthquakes. But a new study warns another crisis is looming in California: mega floods. Well, this isn't actually so weird. It's funny because depopulation is trending on Twitter. There was a lot of debate on Twitter this morning about overpopulation or depopulation or whatever. And we will talk about that. We talk about it a lot. But the thing about the mega floods is that there's a lot of floods happening, right? So, some people, the dismissive crowd, will probably go like, oh, yeah, mega floods, sure. But if you're actually paying attention to how many floods there are globally happening kind of all the time, it seems to be a lot of floods going on there. Anyways, let's look at this a little bit. This is from USA Today, so take this with a grain of salt because it's USA Today. But experts warn California of a disaster larger than any in world history. It's not an earthquake. This new study says that as the earth warms, a massive California flood gets more likely, and that would swamp Los Angeles, displace millions, and cause historic damage. It's happening right now. The funny thing is they're talking about something that's happening right now. Las Vegas has been flooded twice. The Strip has been flooded twice this year already. Major floods have happened in the Midwest already this year. Major floods have happened, all over the place. In the Middle East, and not a lot of major floods in China this year, but for the last few years, there's been quite a few major flood events. Anyways, climate change is increasing the risk of floods that could submerge cities and displace millions of people across the state, according to a study released Friday. It says an extreme month-long storm could bring feet of rain in some places, more than 100 inches, to hundreds of miles in California. Actually, not all that unlikely. Last winter, we had this crazy, 2 weeks of just massive rain, every day for 2 weeks in December. So not out of the realm of possibility. Why? Because scientifically that makes sense, and it's not, it's not Dr. Evil and the Harp Ray. It's that there's more water vapor in the atmosphere. Why? Because it's warmer. And that leads to more evaporation, right? It's warmer, water evaporates, there's more moisture in the air. What happens with the more moisture in the air? We have longer, stronger, bigger storms. That's not complicated science. Anyways, Similarly, unrelenting storms have happened in the past before the region became home to tens of millions of people. Now each degree of global warming is dramatically increasing the odds and size of the next mega flood, the study says. When floods hit in a warmer planet, the storm sequence is bigger in almost every respect, said Daniel Swain, UCLA climate scientist and co-author of the study, in a news release. There's more rain overall, more intense rainfall on an hourly basis, and stronger wind. Climate change is a factor in megafloods? Yeah. In fact, the study found that climate change makes such catastrophic flooding twice as likely to occur. Swain said that such massive statewide floods have occurred every century or two in California over the past millennia, and today's risk of such events has been substantially underestimated. Long before climate change, California's Great Flood of 1862 stretched up to 300 miles long and 60 miles across. According to the study, a similar flood now would displace 5 million to 10 million people, cut off the state's major freeways for perhaps weeks or months, with massive economic damage, and submerge major Central Valley cities as well as parts of Los Angeles. Anyways, massive California flood would be a $1 trillion disaster. Parts of cities such as Sacramento, Stockton, Fresno, and Los Angeles would be underwater, even with today's extensive collection of reservoirs, levees, and bypasses. Yeah. All right, so I just wanted to touch on this because it is, it's likely. Even if there isn't a mega flood, there are many floods, right? Extreme flooding events. There are more extreme flooding events, every single year globally. It's happening. It's a thing that is absolutely happening. So whether we get the mega flood, we're going to get more floods, period. All right, let's move on. And yeah, this is footage from Las Vegas. Las Vegas Strip is flooding again. This man is living the dream, according to this guy. I don't know if anybody can see this. Guy is rafting in a little Shrek floaty down the street in Las Vegas. Yeah. But pretty amazing, right? That's not really something that you saw a lot in the past. I don't remember the Las Vegas Strip. I'm sure probably there are, anomaly years, or, I'm sure people could go into the, go into the historical records and, oh yeah, there was a flood in Las Vegas Strip in 1953. I'm sure there were. But I'm just saying, I don't remember in my lifetime ever hearing of the Las Vegas Strip flooding, and it's flooded twice in one summer. That's not like, that's it, case closed, climate change is a thing. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying, add that onto the pile of data and evidence, which we have, people who understand climate change, and the people that don't understand climate change don't have. They don't have a pile of data and evidence. They just don't have it. Which the same people do for other things. So that's where it gets confusing. You have theories, conspiracy theories or whatnot, or just theories, theories about what's going on the planet. I don't even need to call them conspiracies. There's, those are things that happen. Conspiracy facts are out there. They are based on data and evidence. They are based on a preponderance of data and evidence. They're based on many different points of data. But they're, when those points outweigh, what the narrative is trying to tell you is the data, and it ends up being kind of not really there, then those things, then you can point to those things and go, yeah, that looks like that's what's happening, right? The conspiracy or the thing that's not according to the official narrative, right? Those things are based on data and evidence. Climate change as a hoax is not based on data and evidence, not enough. It's just based on like a few ideas, and it's just not. That's not a thing. Okay. Okay. If you're gonna say it, you're gonna have to bring out that data and evidence, and not just go, and not just as an aside. Oh, just like climate change, or they're gonna do that with climate change, or blah blah blah. You gotta, present some data and evidence along with that, um, just to prove your point. That's all I ask. More data and evidence. Here we go. More temperature extremes in Europe. More records fell today in Europe. In Spain, hottest day ever at Alicante with 42°C. That is hot, hot, hot. Finally beat the record set in 1994. Records also set at Javia, 40.8°C in France. Most monthly record at Brest, 36°C, sorry, which beats the August 2003 record of 35°C, the year that a bunch of people died because of a heat wave in France. Next tweet, UK and Ireland. Also, warmer than usual in UK and Ireland. It seems like there's a lot of hot temperatures going on in Europe. This has been going, it was news headlines last month. And all the poo-pooers were like, oh, this is just summer. It's just summer. I've been in that hot before. But it keeps on going. It just kept on going. And I don't hear those people talking about it anymore. Why? Because how long can can these things be, the norm be, how long can the temperatures and the events be outside of the norm for you to go, oh, I guess that's outside of the norm. These records keep on falling. It keeps on being hot. It continues to break records. It continues to be outside of the norm. How long, you can't, oh, it's just summer. No, it's actually not summer. This is a summer that they've never had before. The UK has never experienced a summer this hot before. Have they been that hot on singular days or singular moments? Sure. But I'm just saying, over time, over a period of time. Oftentimes, Phoenix, Arizona, in the last few years have had the hottest summers ever, right? Because it's consecutive days over, 100 or 110. You add all those days up, and they're like, dang, it's been consistently hotter than usual. So nobody really, people like to cherry pick the single day events, or was that this hot in 1932? Okay. But was it that hot consistently for, over a period of many days? Probably not. Anyways, it's warmer than usual in the UK. It's the day 5 of this specifically historic heat wave in Ireland, Wales, and Cornwall. Today's remarkable numbers include Cold Rose, 29.8°C, new August record, highest since 1976. Cardenham, 31.4°C, fourth consecutive day, above 31°C. 5th of 2022, before 2022, it had never touched 31°C. So this is not, it's just summer, bro. This is summertime. This is record-breaking heat for them. They do not experience this heat. And not just on singular days, but the entire summer has been like, well, here we go again. Here's another heat wave. Here's more heat. It's way hot again. It's super hot again. We're in drought now because it's super hot, which is what happens when it's super hot over a period of time. You have droughts. Anyways. Let's keep going. More heat in China. China has been experiencing extremely high temperatures all summer long. Record-breaking temperatures. Brutal, endless heat in China today, but people are making this up. Oh my God, they're making it up. They're trying to tie everything to climate change, and it's not that hot. It is that hot, dude. It is that hot. You can only say that if you're ignoring data and evidence, which is the opposite of what it is you're supposed to be doing when you're being a journalist. So when you get into like making stuff up to run a narrative at your fan base, you're not a journalist, you're a propagandist and a liar. A liar. That sucks. That sucks. When you're supposed to be a truther, but you're a liar. That sucks. Brutal endless heat in China. Today, dozens of records were destroyed like it has been happening every day since almost 9 weeks. So again, many, many weeks, many months of extreme heat. Some main records include Haijiang, 42.6 C, Tongnang, 42.8 C. Those are extremely warm temperatures. Baokang, 42.9 C. Zhoushan, 44.6 C. Highest ever in Hubei. Fangjian, 42.4 C. Shenangjia, 37.2 C. High temperatures. I think there's something happening. Oh, sorry, I keep not showing you guys these. Sorry. Well, there's the tweet. There you go. Well, there you go. There is a list here of high temperatures. Let's keep going. Let's keep it moving. Got to keep it moving. It's also very warm here. It's been in the 90s every single day for the last week. It's going to be, last 2 weeks. Also for the next week at least. It's just a wall of 95, 97, 98, 99s every single day. So it's quite warm here. From Jimmy Dore, and many people were passing this around. Good tweet from Jimmy Dore. This is what the Democrats just passed and called a big win for the environment. Can't make this up. So it's supposed to be a climate bill, and it is in fact a boon for the fossil fuel sector. This is because under the bill, the Interior Department will be required to offer up to at least 2 million acres of federal land and 60 million acres of offshore acreage to oil and gas producers every year for the next decade. If they fall short, they wouldn't be able to advance some permitting aspects of wind and solar projects on federal land. So this renewable energy that supposedly, all the commie liberals want is actually tied to offering this land to oil and gas companies who have control over policy, right? They control the they control the policy. They're making sure that their business model keeps on pumping that gas. It would also revive Biden's outrageous failed attempt to carry out the largest oil and gas lease sale in the country's history. Yeah, Biden did that. The good guy, which a judge had blocked earlier this year for failing to properly account for disastrous climate impact. Wow, so like a judge overturned this because the judge was like, oh, what about the climate change thing, bro? Brett Hartle, government affairs director of the CBD, called it a climate suicide pact. It's not hard to see why. Associated Press investigation revealed that hundreds of lease sites in the Permian Basin alone are every hour leaking between hundreds and thousands of kilograms worth of methane, a greenhouse gas dozens of times more planet boiling than carbon dioxide. Completely gone, too, is any funding whatsoever for high-speed rail and public transit. So it sounds like the opposite is happening of what, everybody's calling like Agenda 2030. The opposite, The opposite is happening here, at least in the U.S. You know, people are on Twitter like, you'll never take my personal vehicle, not until those rich people stop using their personal vehicles. I'll never give mine up. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about that because we're not going to support public transit. We're not going to support high-speed rail. We're supporting the oil and gas industry. If there's no gas-burning cars on the road, how are they going to make their money? It's just not happening. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. I know it's an unpopular. I'm sure it's an unpopular thing to say. I'm not a fan of Klaus Schwab or the WEF or whatever. People are, you know, Agenda 2030 is more about corporate technocratic control, more than anything. That's what it's about. But, you know, some of the things that people are so afraid of in the Agenda 2030 game, I'm like, take them cars away, right? Limit personal car transportation and give people some public transit. That's not a communist takeover. That's just public planning that, you know, doesn't prioritize your own personal consumption, you know, to the extent that, you know, it actually doesn't prioritize the capitalist paradigm that we currently support. So I would be like, that's cool. Every once in a while on Twitter, I see these, remember, you know, pictures of streets that used to be filled with cars, now filled with people like flowers and people walking, you know, yeah. Remember, Paris wasn't always this way. It wasn't even this way in late 2019 when I was there last. Just a few years ago, Paris was choking in car traffic. This is new. This is leadership. Cities are a result of choices. So this is they've greatly reduced the car traffic, and now there's a lot of bike traffic and people walking. And there isn't like wall-to-wall cars just jammed up at traffic lights waiting to go forward. And, you know, along with that, a lot less pollution. So there was a thing happening in Paris where they had really bad pollution. And over the last, you know, I don't know how long, maybe decade, in the last decade, they started implementing things where they would, you know, restrict cars from driving on certain days. And they really limited traffic. They started limiting traffic in the city. This is great. This is good. This is good for people. This is good for the environment. This is, you know, a better place to live. This is a nicer experience without all the cars. And this is not, you know, some evil communist plot. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's just not. And I'm sure the people there are like, I like it. It's okay. I would be happy with stuff like this in LA. Gene says the government is making plans to do the same in our capital here in Costa Rica and is putting an electric train with a help from a gift from China. Hey, there you go. Right. Some people can plan, you know, that's a lot of people talk about China being able to implement, you know, mass transit, high-speed transit, bullet trains, and things that are better for the environment. They also do things that are horrible for the environment, like building ghost cities and, you know, funding construction, you know, all over the place that's not very green. They do horrible things as well, but they also are able to do things that are more environmentally friendly, and they don't have to I don't know. They don't put it up for the fake debate, right? So it's not what we get here is not actually like an actual democratic debate. What we get is like propagandized fake debate, and we get manufactured consent, which is under the guise of it looking like democracy, right? I'm not saying, you know, authoritarian slap-down control is the best way to go, but they're just better at doing it. They're just better at implementing some of these things than we are, because we're actually so far up the assholes of corporations that we can't do anything good for people. Not nothing whatsoever. Because if it impacts some business's bottom line or jobs or something or growth, I mean, we just, oh, you can't even know. How dare you even suggest such a thing? And guess what? All the people that are like, you'll take my personal vehicle for my cold dead. I mean, you're so far up the ass of stupid consumerism, capitalism, that you can't even consider another way of living. You're so brain dead propagandized that you're like, no way, that is communist. It's not communist. It isn't. China is communist-ish. They're also controlled capitalism. They're very capitalist, but they're capitalist with a big old with a big control mechanism in there. Anyways, let's keep going. All right, so there was a little bit of a discussion on overpopulation, but this is good from Mark Bevis, just putting this out there. It's a very unpopular subject. Did somebody mention the O word in an academic study? Right. And somebody did. Because it's just physics. This isn't crazy. From biological conservation, overpopulation is a major cause of biodiversity loss, and smaller human populations are necessary to preserve what is left. That's not people going, well, who are you going to kill first? That's not what they're saying. This is like an observation. People are making an observation. Look, it looks like all these people consuming all this stuff, it looks like we're having an effect on biodiversity and on, the planet in general. So could we consider the idea that maybe we should do something else other than just, procreate pell-mell? Abstract global biodiversity decline is best understood as too many people consuming and producing too much and displacing other species. And that's what is really, the thing that is, oh, it's anti-human, but you are anti-animal. You're anti-wildlife. You don't care. Oh, if it impinges on humans, absolutely not. But, things that are anti-human could possibly actually be pro-wildlife or pro-nature, and your inability to understand that maybe nature is important too. Maybe humans should bring it down a little bit, a couple notches, and bring nature up a little bit, a couple notches. That nature isn't just an endless, slave to suck energy and resources out of until it's depleted. I mean, what happens with slaves, human slaves? They don't live very long. They're not very happy. Things don't go well, for them. What happens to animal slaves? It's not a very good life, is it? Generally not a very good life for animal slaves or human slaves. But when you just suck everything out of the environment that you want without any, thinking there's no repercussions, something's going to happen. Something's got to give. What's the stat? The weight of all the mammals on the planet is like 94% humans and the animals that feed them, and the rest is wildlife. Well, there used to be a time when that was way more in balance, and now we're absolutely not only the dominant species, but we're just wiping everything out, and we think that any impingement on anything that we want to do is somehow anti-human, commie, what's the other word? Eugenicist, Malthusian, racist. Yeah, pick your fascist. Pick your poison. Wild landscapes and seascapes are replaced with people. Our domestics and commensals are economic support systems and are trash. That's pretty succinct. Wild landscapes and seascapes are replaced with people, our domestics, and commensals. What is a commensal? Let me look that up real quick. I don't know what a commensal is. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading this. Nobody was seeing this. I keep on doing that. Commensalism is a long-term biological interaction in which members of one species gain benefits while those of the other species neither benefit nor are harmed. This is in contrast with mutualism. Okay. Where one is harmed while the other is unaffected, parasitism. Oh no, amensalism. Sorry, parasitism, where one is harmed and the other benefits. I mean, one is harmed and the other benefits. Are we the parasites? Are we the parasitic? I think I've heard people refer to humans as a parasitic plague. I mean, conservation biologists have documented many of the ways that human activity drives global biodiversity loss. But they generally neglect the role of overpopulation. They generally do. People generally neglect the role of overpopulation. We summarize the evidence of how excessive human numbers destroy and degrade habitats for other species, and how population decrease opens possibilities for ecological restoration. We discuss opportunities for further research into how human demographic changes help or hinder conservation efforts. Finally, we encourage conservation biologists to advocate for smaller populations through improved access to modern contraception and explicit promotion of small families. That doesn't sound like who you're going to kill first. That's not Thanos. It's like, guys, let's have a conversation about this. This is directly impacting, the home where we live, so maybe we could make better choices. That's what people are talking about. People are not talking about, well, let's take out all these people over here. Now, I'm not saying that there are wealthy, powerful people that aren't engaged in those kind of thought patterns, sure, and trying to manipulate the size of, populations based on, because they think, through their immense power and wealth that they can, have an effect on what's happening on the planet. But that's not the way to do it. And I don't support that. I don't support that kind of activity. I think the activity that needs to happen is called conversation and communication of, physics and math and facts, and then encourage people to act on this information, right? Not talking about who you're going to kill first. That's ridiculous. Okay, Martin, I'm going to take this phone call, but let's keep it kind of short.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, I am more of the George Carlin camp, where I do believe in global warming, and I do believe we have a huge impact on our environment.
Yeah.
However, bringing in all the other animals and stuff just really doesn't make sense to me, because the only reason we have to actually preserve our environment is ourselves, first and foremost, and because we humans live, and we need the Earth to be the way it was when we came around.
Sure, yeah.
And the basic, the real scientific fact of it is that 99% of every living being that have ever existed has gone extinct.
Right. Sure.
So, and there has been beings that have had a huge impact on Earth as we have. I think it was about somewhere about around 800 million years ago or something, where there was this bacteria that actually created oxygen in the atmosphere, when there was nothing that was consuming it.
Sure.
And it destroyed this environment and killed off itself and everything around it. But then we got dinosaurs coming around after that. So So thinking of it like as if like the environment is like something we have to protect for its sake is, I don't feel it's intellectual way to argue for it. I feel arguing for it that we need it to be the way it is so we can survive in the future is the best argument to go about it.
Well,
But
that's true.
so,
Yeah, sure. Sure. I see that. Yeah.
so
I mean, and
I
to
agree
further your
with
point, I mean, to further your point, I think, like, if we actually don't protect the environment to the extent that we can still sustain our lives on the planet, then we won't be here anymore, right?
exactly.
So,
And
yeah.
that is worse news for us than
Yeah,
anybody else.
exactly.
So,
That's the ultimate. Well, and that's the ultimate depopulation agenda, is just doing just continuing forward as if nothing is
well,
wrong. That's the actual. If there's some evil plan afoot, that's the evil. That is it, right? An evil plan to depopulate humans on the planet. That's the one. Just keep doing what you're doing.
absolutely.
Just don't do anything different.
Absolutely, and I think that is the major flaw of, like, if you want to call them the elites or the ruling elites or whatever. I think the biggest flaw within their logic is that they think they can get away with it and they will survive.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very dumb plan. It's their plans are just really stupid. Yeah, exactly. I think you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you, Martin. I appreciate the call. I'm going to have to let you go because I got a couple things more to cover.
No worries. Thank you
Yeah.
for taking my call.
Thanks a lot. Excellent point there from Martin. William, hold on. I'm going to take your call a little bit in a couple minutes. I just want to cover a couple things more before it gets too late. Anyways, we discuss opportunities for further research into how human demographic changes help or hinder conservation efforts. Finally, we encourage, anyway, I read this part. Whether the goal is to save threatened species, create more protected area, restore degraded landscapes. Did I miss something in here? No, I think that was it. Restore degraded landscapes, limit climate disruption, and any other objectives key to preserving biodiversity. Reducing the size of the human population is necessary to achieve it. Again, nowhere in here did anybody say, we gotta start taking people out. That's not, nobody in here said that. So, the idea that any talk of overpopulation is immediately Malthusian or eugenicist or somehow, you want to cull people immediately, who are you going to kill first? It just is not, that's not an intelligent answer. I'm sorry. And I'm not going to, it just isn't an intelligent answer. Have people done, I think that humans are also in an experiment. We've been in a very experimental time for the last 100 or 200 years, right? Civilization is still kind of evolving and trying to figure itself out, right? Because we've grown exponentially and we've had all these huge advances. And look what happened politically over the last, people have done, kind of eugenicist type ideas or put forward ideas about, like, well, what are we going to do about this issue or that issue that haven't been very great. Specifically to go to the China population, the one-child policy, again, they were able to implement something that was proactive, that I think they weren't trying to achieve something negative. I think they were trying to achieve something positive. And they were able to enact something, that you probably could never enact in a Western country. But it also had negative, right? Over time, it became perceived incredibly negatively, of course, right? Had negative consequences, societal consequences that were not, obviously they didn't know that was going to happen. But, and one of the main reasons they got rid of that policy wasn't because it was like so bad. They got rid of it because capitalism, because, well, we need, who are we going to sell all this stuff to if we limit our population? They realized, well, we need We need more population. You know, like Elon Musk said, oh, we're entering a danger zone. We're going to have some more babies, because he sees the fact that capitalism is built on growth, even population growth, and if you have population decline, then capitalism is going to decline and or collapse onto itself. So make them babies or whatever. Anyways, that was a good post. Look at this from Castro. I know some people might be like, he's crazy, man. Why would you ever listen to Castro? I don't know. This was very intelligent. This is a real. This is I don't know if I can get sound on this. Oh, here we go. I'm going to have to try. Let's go back to the beginning. So Castro says, because what has capitalism resolved? It has, sorry, it has solved no problems. It has looted the world. It has left us with all this poverty, right? It has created lifestyles and models of consumerism that are incompatible with reality. It has poisoned waterways, oceans, rivers, lakes, seas, the atmosphere of the earth. It has produced incredible waste of resources. I always cite one example. Imagine every person in China owned a car. Sorry, guys. I'm probably not playing. You're not able to see this on the screen. I'm just being a sloppy, trying to host and produce at the same time. Sorry. What if everybody in China aspired to own a car? Every one of the 1.1 billion people in China. Or that every one of the 800 million people in India wish to own a car, this method, this lifestyle. And that Africa did the same. And that nearly 450 million Latin Americans did the same. How long would oil last? How long would natural gas last? How long would natural resources last? What would be left of the ozone layer? So it's not just, you know, he's citing all of the things involved. What would be left of the oxygen of the earth? I mean, this is, you know, I don't care what you think about Castro. He was laying it down. That was all spot on and scientifically true, solid. If all the people of the earth are living like people in the United States, it's game over. I mean, it's already game over, but it just, you know, what does that even look like? Anyways, this was I don't care what anybody thinks about Fidel Castro. This is right. What would happen with carbon dioxide? And all of these phenomena that are changing the ecology of our world. They are changing Earth. They are making life in our planet more and more difficult all the time. What has capitalism given the world? A model to follow? An example for societies to emulate? Shouldn't we focus on more rational things? Like the education of the whole population? Ding. Nutrition, health, and a respectable lodging? An elevated culture? Would you say capitalism, hold on, let me go back. Would you say capitalism is selfishness as a fundamental principle has given us something to emulate? Has it shown us a path forward? Is humanity going to travel along the course charted thus far? There may be talk of a crisis in socialism, but there is today a crisis in capitalism with no end in sight. It has no solutions. I don't know how you refute that on any level. I'm sure people will try. I'm sure they will try. Gene, 99% literacy in Cuba, free healthcare for all. Exactly. Do we have that here? Don't think so. Don't think so. Obsolete Optics says, someone once said to me, ecology is fake news. Okay. Again, yeah, it's like funny because, I don't know, there's just, yeah. Why do you think they tried to kill him 650 plus times? Right. I mean, when people talk about Agenda 2030 or WEF as communism, I mean, it's just the absolute, like, dumbest knuckle dragging thing to say ever, because you don't know what communism is, and they're not talking about communism. They're talking about corporatism. They're talking about straight up fascism, authoritarian control through corporate control. That's called fascism. So first of all, go read a book or something. All right. All right. I have some things I want to talk about before I go. William, just sit tight for a second, man. I really got to cover these things before I get out of here. So, just very quickly on the Anne Heche subject. Anne Heche died of her injuries in a car crash. And I have to say, as soon as I saw the news about her kind of popping up on Twitter, and I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. There was something, my spidey senses were like, I don't know about this Anne Heche story. So she died, and all of a sudden, some really very interesting things came out around her death. This from Retro Coast. It said actress Anne Heche, who died in a fiery car crash, was working on a movie titled The Girl in Room 13 about the Jeffrey Epstein ring. Oh, really now? That is very interesting news. And then I saw this, this was floating around on the Twitter. Well, Gonzalo Lira posted this, but a lot of people were posting this. And this is pretty crazy video here. It kind of points to the same thing, basically. So he says, at this point in the collapse, nothing would surprise me. Hold on, I'm going to have to read this video, I think. So actress Anne Heche, hold on. I guess it doesn't need this music. Actress Anne Heche died at 43 after a horror car crash. Anne Heche's new sex trafficking film is still happening despite her car crash. Lifetime moves forward with plans for Anne Heche film Girl in Room 13 after car accident. So they're just saying she had this film coming out about human trafficking. And so here we go. I guess this is somebody says, I don't know who this is. He leaves Anne Heche in a burning car and said she was dead. I don't know if this is her husband or somebody else. And yet she snatches the covers off of her and the fireman shoves her back down. So there's video footage. I'm going to play it for you. Somebody says, did you see the video of her trying to get off the stretcher?
So he leaves Heche in a burning car. An impossible decision for David.
So here's this video of her on a stretcher, and the sheet is over her as if she's dead, and somebody brought that up, but maybe she's a burn victim. And they take her to the ambulance, and she pops up. She pops up off of the stretcher. Now, so maybe she was still, they were saying she was brain dead or she was done or gone. That's weird. There's another video here too. I'm just playing this for you because this is very strange indeed. Where did this go? Where'd it go? Sorry, guys. Better video of Anne Heche, of her being wheeled to the ambulance. Look, watch this though. This is pretty crazy. This is her being wheeled to the ambulance, and it's same thing. Right before she gets into the ambulance, she like pops out, and she's like, "Hey!" And she doesn't. I guess she's burned, but she doesn't. I don't know. Maybe she's in pain, but she pops up out of the thing. Interesting. It's interesting. Anyways, I don't know what to think about that, but the fact that she was working on there has been a long, long, long string of people who are involved in the, Epstein type human trafficking slash, you know what I'm talking about, that whole thing. And, they befall, a weird fate befalls them generally every time. And seems to have happened with Anne Heche. So this is a weird story. I'm covering the story because I think it's a weird story. That is very intriguing. I don't even know if I should be on YouTube right now talking about this, but that is a strange story. And then lastly, I want to cover this before I leave you all. From Ford Fisher, they're trying to kind of ramp up this idea that, are they really trying to get a civil war thing going? I mean, a lot of people have been talking about this, but anyways, from Ford Fisher, today several armed Trump supporters gathered outside the FBI building in Phoenix, Arizona. We're here in support of Trump for what happened to him, the unlawful search with the FBI at his Mar-a-Lago home, blah, blah, blah. We will not stand down, and we will not stand by, and we will not stand down. Anyways, they're just shown here. Some of them are armed. But there's been the, this idea that, they're trying to, it seems like in the media they're trying to stir up this idea of like a civil war. I just played that clip for you right the other day, the news media all parroting the same thing, there's been QAnon boards and civil war. The people have been talking about civil war. It seems like they're trying to drum this up. Some people are calling these people fake, or they're feds or something like that. I don't know. I have no idea about that. I'm not trying to, Ford Fisher took this. This is like live footage. Are they feds? I have no idea. But the reason why I wanted to play this is like, do you guys think really, like, I feel like the idea of a civil war is kind of ridiculous. I just think I know there are a lot of people out there. I know I live in California, so I don't live in areas where other people live. But I just don't, I don't really think that it's like that with people, right? I think people are unhappy mainly with the government, with the powers that be, right, with what's going on. But I don't think that people are, there are that many Trump supporters or people that, super into Trump that they're gonna go civil war. I know people can bring up the January 6th thing, but I think a lot of that was actually, I think people understand that was also somewhat helped along by intelligence agencies. But, I just don't see, I don't think that, I just don't see this being a real thing. I would be very, very surprised that people would, especially over Trump. I just don't think that I think this is manufactured, honestly. I really do. And as I was listening to another journalist the other day, and they were like, just don't fall for this. Don't take the bait. I just really don't. Are there wingers out there that are like, yeah, totally, let's go, Civil War? Yeah, sure, there are those people, but I just don't think that I don't think that there's enough of those people that it's going to be like that. Who are they going to fight against? Who is a civil war? A civil war against whom? Civil war means like, who? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be people out in the streets. I guess the closest we saw to something like that was like Antifa and Proud Boys in Portland, but I think that was like 2020 or something. That also seemed to be a bit contrived, and also seemed to be very interesting that took place in Portland, right? In a very liberal city, right? Were there those kinds of standoffs in very conservative places? No. So who's feeding the idea of like civil war? I don't know. It just seems to be. I just thought that was interesting footage, and I think this idea that they're trying to ramp something up is an interesting idea. I don't know that I totally think that it is homegrown or organic. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to take this call. William, how you doing?
Me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting on Castro. Something to consider. It's the corporatists, the rapaciously corrupt corporatists that have quashed inventions from Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower to hydrogen-powered vehicles to hemp. Henry Ford had a hemp car that he right, and it's, for example, just a few things that have crushed things that. One of your callers mentioned that. What is it? 65% of the greenhouse gases have been produced in the last, did he say 70 years? I'm trying to remember the quote, but obviously, right, something of that nature.
Right.
So when we had a chance to do something. The Wardenclyffe Tower was in the 1910 through 1917 before J.P. Morgan, they blew it up because they couldn't meter free energy, right?
Right.
And then I know I don't want to go back, but just the VisivTech Tower in Milford, Texas, is based on that. We talked about that yesterday. So they quashed it for over 100 years. When all this, now we're at a crisis where. Yeah. As you said, here we are. And so while Castro's comments are relevant, it's based on the use of petrochemicals to drive the power, which there are many other means that they purposely quash because you can't meter water. Like if you had a hydrogen power generator in your car, you can't meter water. I mean, you can, but it's nominal. You see what I'm saying? Or how do you meter free energy that Tesla is producing? So this is all profit driven, obviously. And of course, you're right. It's all about consumerism because it's maximizing profits. I mean, my dad had a bicycle shop for a fellow bought it from us who worked for us. I remember the bikes going from 10 speeds when most people didn't know how to use 10 speeds. Remember, you had 3 speeds and you had 10 speeds. Right. And then the 15 speeds and the freaking 21 speeds and 28 speeds. And I'm like, what the hell? Most people have no idea how to use 5. You follow me? Right. And it's all marketing. You know what? The top mountain bikes today have 12 speeds.
Right. Right. Fixed gears are a thing.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're going to climb hills and stuff, they use a very small front ring now and a large ratio in the back. But what I'm saying is, it's like the razor blade went from single edge to 5. Remember at one point, it was ridiculous. You ever try using a 5-edge razor? It gets all clogged up. You're constantly banging it out.
Yeah, there are things that don't need to be. Well, I was thinking that about the front load washer and dryer, right? Are actually not. They're actually not improvements. Because there's problems with like a front load washer. Gets it's hard. It gets all like moldy and It's just not an improvement on the design, right? And it has to have a seal, right? And the seals go bad, and it's just like, it was better, just to have the top, just put it on the top. It's just not a big deal, right? It's just like, I don't know. I hear you. Yeah, I mean, tech, even like consumerism or technology, the range of things that we can possibly do is over the top. Right, we have too many choices. We probably have too much information coming at us on some level, and not that I think people should be limited in their information or getting information, but I'm just saying, like, too many options is a problem, right? Sometimes.
Oh, we all have to have the latest not me personally, the latest cell phone technology. I mean, why? How many people need that in their hand? You know what I mean?
Right.
But the other thing, I know you got to go, but hemp versus trees, It's a longer discussion that we can have today. But for example, Henry Ford commented, why use up the forests and the minerals of the earth that have taken eons to grow and produce when we can produce most of this from hemp, including the body panels that he made for his car were hemp. And you know what? There's a video, if you check that out on his hemp car, where they tried to hit his body panels with a sledgehammer, bounced right off.
Nice. Okay. No, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. That's great. Yeah.
So anyway, I know you got to roll. So thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for calling in, William. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Take it easy. All right. Guys, that's going to wrap it up for me. Thanks for hanging out with me every day on the call-in, the YouTube, and the Rockfin. Thank you for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I will be back tomorrow at noon Pacific Daylight. I think this is going to be the new time for now. So I'll see you all tomorrow. And until next time, peace.